On today's video, we're gonna go into the hoods of Fort Myers, the real streets of Fort Myers, and see what's really happening in Fort Myers, the city of palms, a city that has been affected by immigration law and many other changes. We're gonna go to the most hardcore hoods in the city and try to understand what is going on in Fort Myers, Florida. Fort Myers, Florida. On today's video, we're gonna spend some time in some of the roughest neighborhoods in Fort Myers, areas that have a large undocumented population, predominantly Guatemalan. You'll notice vehicles like this right here that go by. These are gonna be taxis. They're kind of like neighborhood taxis. Most of them are gonna look like this. They're gonna be minivans. This is one of the largest concentrations of Guatemalans in the United States here. And obviously with the current immigration situation, recording in these neighborhoods is gonna be a little bit tricky because we're gonna scare people a little bit. They're not gonna be really comfortable with the notion of somebody driving through with a camera. They're gonna think it's immigration related, but this is the largest Guatemalan community in the United States by percentage of the population. In this area here, most people are Guatemalan. These are impoverished and somewhat dangerous neighborhoods, so recording in here is a little bit tricky, and already we're getting some pretty hard looks. Very impoverished, and with this area, you have a lot of crime. It's definitely a dangerous neighborhood, the type of place where there's a lot of hardworking people, but where there's also a lot of people who are living in illegality and kind of not a lot of effort to conform to. There's another taxi as well, so you can see the minivans running around. Those are kind of like the neighborhood taxis here. They run non-stop. Now most of those guys are going to have their license, of course, because, well, they're driving obviously commercially. So these neighborhoods are also gang controlled, so we're kind of we're definitely going to get some attention for recording in these areas, but we'll do the best we can. Now, the city of Fort Myers didn't become the crime crap hole that it is by chance. At the heart of the crime problem in this community is the corruption of the Lee County Sheriff's Office, an agency that is known for extorting the migrant community. In fact, I think just in the last year, they've arrested police officers who were doing just that, purposely looking for Hispanic people to pull over and then demanding a cash extortion for their freedom. In the time that Sheriff Marcino has been the Lee County Sheriff, the overdose rates in this county have skyrocketed to where it has been the highest in all of Southwest Florida. There was a time when these neighborhoods were beautiful areas and places you would want to live. But over the years, this community has deteriorated greatly. Raids have shut down construction sites, but here in Lee County, Florida, new home construction continues booming. These neighborhoods used to be really nice areas, but like you can see here, you got two people living in campers in the front yard, and it's understandable with the decline of this neighborhood how people that live here would want to move out when next door you have a situation like that. Now, these Palm Beach neighborhoods come right up against the river, so the houses directly on the water are really nice houses. Now, in the past, we have been in this neighborhood recording videos, and we've actually had people quite literally threaten us, tell us that we can't record. So we're gonna have to be real careful. These neighborhoods are not controlled by the police, they're controlled by gangs. You know, you're being followed, watched, and they'll come right up to you. I'm pretty sure they're in today's video at some point. They'll come right up to us and tell us why we're recording in their neighborhood. And of course, a lot of people have had to leave the United States. That's why you're seeing so many houses for sale in this area. You know, you just have lost a demand for rental properties. Now, there used to be a lot of good, hardworking families in these neighborhoods. Yeah, they were undocumented, but they were good, hardworking people. But what's happened over like the last 2 years, and especially since the implementation of SB 1718 in the state of Florida, is that these communities have had to kind of fall under the grasp of gangs with corruption and extortion rackets. You see these signs everywhere that say this area is protected by Neighborhood Watch, but really at this point, the only thing protecting these neighborhoods is extortion rackets and gangs. Now, this area was heavily impacted by Hurricane Ian. Most of these houses were 3 feet underwater, and you can still see properties today like this one here that are completely gutted. These homes were all underwater during the hurricane and to this day remain construction sites. In 2022, Hurricane Ian absolutely destroyed this part of Fort Myers. And this property here is right on the river and it's still completely gutted. And if you think things are bad here on the Hispanic side of Fort Myers, you should see how bad it is on the other side of the river. That's North Fort Myers. That's the predominantly poor white area. Over there, homelessness is more rampant than here. Crime is more rampant. And addiction and overdoses are just a plague. So, I mean, you could argue even that despite how bad things are on the Latino side of Fort Myers, the Central American part of the city, the situation is even far worse on the predominantly white part of the city. Of course, not everybody keeps their properties in neglected conditions. Not everybody's property is a freaking landfill. There's a lot of people out here who actually do keep their houses really nice. But some people, man, it's like, dude, it's like a plague. They just destroy neighborhoods. A lot of people do actually keep their properties nice and pretty. Like, not everybody's properties are a mess out here, you know? But some properties are. And you can tell that the bones of this neighborhood are the bones of a really nice area at some point in the past. There was definitely a time when these neighborhoods were great places to live, but those days are long gone. I mean, the bones of these neighborhoods are good, and like I said, a lot of people actually do keep their properties well kept. Like, what the crap is going on here, man? My goodness. But right next door is a house where they're trying to keep it up, but you can't forget what happened in this neighborhood with the hurricanes. I mean, every single one of these houses had floodwater inside of them, and we did a video right after the hurricane in this neighborhood. People got to work right away. And of course, not everybody that's Guatemalan is undocumented. There's a lot of people here who have their driver's license and got their papers, own properties. So, you know, the demographic of this neighborhood isn't going to change. It doesn't matter how many immigration raids, and you know, a lot of the people here do have their papers. Se renta un cuarto con cocina y baño aquí en Fort Myers City. Pretty clear graffiti there. Smells like death. Now, even before the current administration's efforts, you have to keep in mind that this area was already hit hard by SB 1718, because for some reason that I don't understand, the Fort Myers Police Department or the Lee County Sheriff's Office decided that they were going to implement SB 1718 here way before. Notice the taxis. These are all taxis. All these minivans are taxis. This minivan right here is a taxi. So all these are taxis, and they kind of do like a informal Uber where they drive around Ubering people from place to place, and they will only almost pick up Guatemalans. They don't like to pick up other people. They're very skeptical of other people because they're afraid of getting robbed. So the city of Fort Myers was hit really hard and really bad by SB 1718. A lot of businesses closed. I mean, already immigration law before the current administration, just on a state level, really hit this area hard. So the city of Fort Myers has been suffering from immigration law issues now for a while. It isn't just the current administration. It's actually been kind of on a state level now for a while. The city's economy is solely based on these Latino communities. The businesses, everything here is related to these communities. So when the state and now the current administration targets these areas, you can imagine that the economical impact of these efforts is going to be brutal, and it's going to create challenging moments economically for this area. So things haven't been going well out here. Businesses have been closing. Homelessness has become rampant, which used to not be the case many years ago out here. I mean, there's always a visible homeless population, but recently it's really got out of hand with the homeless population. Look at how expensive gas is here in Fort Myers in this neighborhood. The city of Fort Myers doesn't really do a lot for helping make these roads safe. Like here, there's always people crossing back and forth on this boulevard, and you can see there's people about to cross now, but there's no real pedestrian crosswalk here. The city of Fort Myers gives zero craps about this neighborhood. Despite the fact that this is a high pedestrian area, there are no crosswalks. If you go to Tampa, you go to other cities, they'll have crosswalks where people can cross the road safe. The city of Fort Myers gives no craps about the people in this community. There's no crosswalks here whatsoever. I see a woman there crossing the road. They don't care about these communities. There should be crosswalks here. Just look at how many people are crossing this road right now at the moment, and there's no crosswalks whatsoever. Just right at this moment, there's 3 people crossing here. These 3 pedestrians just crossed the road here, and there's absolutely no crosswalk whatsoever, leading to situations like this. All right, buddy, so I just got my agua fresca here at the little place. Katie wanted some sandia, watermelon in English.
Okay, Jeff.
Living in Fort Myers economically is a serious disadvantage. The rental prices in these rough neighborhoods are ridiculously high. Most houses out here don't even have central air. They're on window shakers. Yep, se renta cuartos. Crazy how many of these little minivans you see out here, but it's very clear that it's kind of like a thing to do here. I mean, like right behind us, there's one actually. Most of these houses are gonna have window units. That's just give you an idea how much poverty there is out here. You don't see that everywhere in Florida, but it is the hood in Fort Myers. People out here are literally on window shakers, you know. And the ones that do have licenses, they just drive around these little minivans. You can see this guy right here has got 2 of them. And they'll put stickers on them and make them colorful to attract attention. Actually, he's got 3 of them here. So if they have a license, they'll just drive around all day giving people rides who are undocumented. There is something called Uber, But I guess some of these people can't figure out how to use an Uber. I mean, they're mostly Guatemalans. They're coming from fairly poor backgrounds. They don't know how to read and write. Many of them are unlettered. So as of recently, I think it's like 60% of Guatemala's population doesn't know how to read and write. So they can't order an Uber. There are still informal taxis here driving around the neighborhoods. Even the rent signs here are in Spanish. Se rentan cuartos. It's in Spanish. You know? Rooms for rent. But it's crazy to see how in these areas, ¿Qué pasa, primo? They're just hanging out. It's Saturday, so they're just hanging out. They're just hanging out. But you'll see, like, a lot of the people here, the ones that have licenses, they drive these taxis and they pimp them out. Look, this house right here has got 3 of them. And you can see here, again, window units on the windows, so they don't have, like, central air. 3 of these taxis here, and these are like the informal taxis here. These things are driving around all day long, just picking people up. Informal taxis. I mean, this is something that doesn't exist in most places in the United States, and really the only reason it exists because, you know, these guys from Guatemala, a lot of them don't know how to read and write. They don't know how to, you know, they don't know how to get on and order an Uber. You know what I mean? And if you try, like, if you're not Guatemalan and you try to get in those taxis, they won't let you get a ride because they're afraid of getting robbed. Because, like, if you speak English and whatever, like, you're younger and you're born here, you should know how to order an Uber. So a lot of times, if you try to get in one of those taxis, they simply won't let you get in it because they think you're trying to rob them, and a lot of them do get robbed. So it's not a prejudice, it's just, what do you call it, a logical assumption. There's literally, that looks like a shed or a house. I'm not even sure if that's a house or a shed. But I mean, dude, there's 10, 12 people to a house out here. It's everywhere you look are window shakers. So, you know, there's 10, 12 people to a house. Look at this house right here. They've actually put cutouts in the house to put window units. So that's because that house there, it may be a single family home, but there's probably 4 or 5 families living in that particular house. And that's why they have window units sticking out of every hole, because, you know, there's probably 10 people living in that house. That's why they have so many window shakers. You can see this house here. It has a window unit on the side, little side shed looking thing. So that's somebody that's paying $1,000 a month for a room. And I know that sounds crazy, but there are literally people in Fort Myers right now on the Facebook Marketplace that are advertising $1,000 for a room. A room. Paying $1,000 for a room is wild work, but that's what's going on out here. There's the taxis running by. And here on the intersection of Luray and Marion is yet another for rent sign here in Fort Myers. This one is a 4-bedroom, 4-bath. But if you look at the square footage of this home, it's barely big enough to be a 2-bedroom. But when they build these houses out here, they know that they pack people into the houses, so they'll make it a 4-bedroom just so people can rent something out. You would never find for rent signs here in Fort Myers, but they're actually becoming pretty common. And there's actually more information on the door. And I guess both of these are for rent. And guys, when I tell you that prices are ridiculous in Fort Myers, this here, they were trying to get $3,500 a month. They stepped it down to $32,000. And notice how they've highlighted that they're private rooms. So the idea is that 4 people, you know, will rent this place out individually. So they're asking $32,000. So that's $700 a room. So as ridiculous as it sounds, these people are really trying to get $3,200 for this tiny little house in a bad neighborhood. And it really is a bad neighborhood. Take a look at this house here right across from these rentals. This house has metal bars on the windows. They are still building out here. That's the crazy part about this situation. They are still building new houses out here. Forget about economic downturn. Forget about the largest amount of real estate available that's ever existed. Here in the hood of Fort Myers, they are still building. Please believe when I tell you that this is a high crime rate area. This is an empty lot and they have to have a sign up for it. Just so you guys can understand how much of a high crime rate neighborhood this is, notice how houses have plywood on the windows, and that is because the potential for somebody to do a home invasion robbery is so high here that people literally board up their houses just for safety so that they don't have to worry about their windows getting broken into. If they don't have metal bars on the windows, they're putting up plywood. The city of Fort Myers is known for home invasion robberies, so it's just about everybody out here's got plywood on the windows. Like this one here's got plywood and metal bars. So yeah, it's not exactly the nicest neighborhood. Imagine a house in a bad neighborhood. Look, all these houses got plywood on the windows, and that's just because they don't want people to do drive-by shootings or home invasion robberies. So imagine that. It's definitely a bizarre situation in Fort Myers, and that's people trying to capitalize on these people that are undocumented. Because they're undocumented, they can charge ridiculous prices for rents, and I mean absolutely ridiculous. These people got no papers, they're undocumented, they don't know too much about the United States. They can charge these people ridiculous amounts of money. It's like literally an entire economy based off of exploiting the undocumented community's particularities. Like, you know, these taxis everywhere. You know, it's an economy. It's an entire economy based off of just undocumented people here. All right, if you're from Fort Myers, you know exactly where I'm at right about now. This used to be a predominantly black neighborhood, but today it's mostly Hispanic. You can see the taxis right there, so that lets you know that the people living here are Spanish. And again, no central air conditioning. You see the window shakers on everybody's house right there. People here do not have central air conditioning. Everybody's on window shakers. This is the hood. This is like the real life hood out here. People got metal bars on the windows. And this area of Fort Myers used to be mostly African American, but if you look at the cars, you can kind of tell that the demographic of this place has changed. What hasn't changed is that it continues to be a very dangerous neighborhood. Notice again, metal bars on the windows, but this area used to be predominantly black and now it's Hispanic. So you can see right here on this empty lot, they're building a house right here. And again, think about, this isn't like the most attractive neighborhood, but check this out, y'all. Y'all ready for this? A watermelon dunk, baby. Yeah, buddy. Welcome to Fort Myers, y'all. The watermelon dunk, man. Yeah, buddy. Inside peanut butter, outside jelly. Lincoln looked like a watermelon heavy. I mean, I just find it hard to believe that right now in the United States, in the year 2025, people still don't have central air. They got the window shakers. I mean, it's crazy to think that that is still a thing here in Fort Myers. They're building another house right here. So you're probably wondering, why are they building so many houses here? And it is because the population density. People have to live in these neighborhoods because from here they can get to the jobs, they can get to everything they're doing, right? So despite the fact there aren't that many jobs, despite the fact rents are ridiculous, people are literally still building new houses in Fort Myers because the demand is so big. And let's not forget, that's after SB 1718, the state level law, and that's after the current administration's stance on immigration. It ain't nothing gonna change out here. You got what I'm saying? Yeah, buddy. Whoa, that is. We are in Fort Myers though. That's wild work right there. You're gonna get sued. All right, man. I appreciate you, bro. Hey, this dope, man.
Yeah, thank you.
I love it, bro. So check it out, y'all. This is one of the sickest donks I've seen, like rides. It's not exactly a donk, but you know, hood rides I've seen in a while. Check this out, y'all. He went all out with this one, bro. Check it out, man. He got the state of Florida right here. That look like Miami. What are them, 30s or 28s? That's something right there, bro. Look at these lasagna. Look how thin that man is. Like he can't even read the size on there. That's sick, bro. That is sick right there. That's some Florida stuff right there, man. That's Fort Myers for you right there, man. Let me see if I can see what size these is, man. They 28s, bro. They 28s. They 28s, bro. Look at the size of that screen he got up in there, bro. That's how they do it here in Fort Myers, though. That's some Fort Myers stuff for you right there. I appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you, man. Hey, man. That's dope, man. Hey, that's one of the dopest rides I've seen out there, bro. Have a good day, bro.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Some old school cars, man. They're doing it crazy with the cars here in Fort Myers. So every single hood in Florida is gonna have a seafood place like this. Here in Fort Myers, it's Hooks and Catch on MLK. In Bradenton, it's Sam's Seafood. In Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, they got Snappers. If you're down in Miami, it's Lemon Pepper. But the point being that every hood in Florida got one of these spots right here. This is Florida hood stuff right here. Every hood in Florida is gonna have one of these spots, I'm telling you. Now don't let all these new houses fool you. This out here is the hood in Fort Myers for real. And please believe people out here trapping. So we are in spots where pulling out a camera on the wrong street in front of the wrong house could definitely be a problem. This is the heart of the African American community, the area around Dunbar and Fort Myers. I do have Katie with me, and she did go to Dunbar, so that kind of helps. We might be good because Katie's actually went to the school out here. So if we get shacked out here, y'all, it's up to Katie to save me, because she did go to Dunbar and Fort Myers, but she was the only white girl in the whole school. So everybody remembers her because she was the only white girl in the whole school. We've been out here in the hood before doing videos, and somebody will be like, "Yo, that's Katie, dog." And she's like, "Yeah, that's that white girl I went to school with." But we are in the hood, so we gotta be real careful. I mean, recording out here is not exactly a walk in the park. What we're doing out here today, y'all.
Apparently, I'm more memorable than I think I am.
Yeah, for sure, y'all. Like, for real. If Katie is, you're memorable. You're the only white girl in the whole school, practically.
It was not. There were other white girls.
But you can see the lowered cars, so Spanish people have been moving in here as well. So, Fort Myers, like I said, the only thing that can save me out here is the fact that everybody in Fort Myers knows Katie.
I don't know.
She went to Dunbar.
People do.
We've been out here in the hood before, and there'll be somebody like, we'll be up outside the corner, so, "Yo, that's that white girl went to school with out." You know? But hey, the same scenario happening in other neighborhoods is happening here as well. I'll show you guys here in a minute. There it is. Look, there are for rent signs here as well everywhere. Check this one out right here. For rent sign right here on the corner of Paldo and Douglas. You got a for rent sign right here. Check it out. So if anybody's looking to live in the hood of Fort Myers, y'all already know what's up, man. You already know what's good. There it is right there. Right here, you got this for rent sign. Notice it's got metal bars on the windows. Right next door is a house for sale. And notice that they built a new house in the hood. They absolutely did, right? And then over here, you got another for rent sign. Looks like this car right here is scoping out the spot. But that's another for rent sign. So just in this corner, we got a for rent sign here, a for sale sign here, and another for rent sign here. So that's the reality of the streets in Fort Myers. And please believe we in the trenches right now. And then right here, you got a we buy houses. So I don't know what that's about, but you get the idea. This is the reality. That's MOK right behind this house. So in the hood of Fort Myers, the African-American community's got the same problem. And the problem is just an abundance of rental properties, but somehow they're still building more. It makes no sense, right? It's wild to think that just 1 block away from all those for rent signs, they're building more rental properties. So here we are right now, and they're building, guys. Look, this is another duplex going in, and they got this one on a corner lot. Right across the street, there's 2 new houses, and they're for sale because, of course, nobody's buying right now. Look, bro, they got the house boarded up. You already know what time it is. You off of Dunbar. Now, in case you don't know, Dunbar is absolutely the heart of the hood here in Fort Myers. So, yeah, we are on Dunbar. And just talking to the mail guy real quick. But this house right here, I mean, this is on Dunbar. This is definitely the heart of the hood out here. And they're building houses. And the crazy thing about it is there's so many rents and empty houses available out here. And it's a rough neighborhood. This isn't exactly where you want to live. Somebody dumped a dump truck tire right there, and there's a church right here, and there's another church over there. Look, bro, it's a church, and they have to put the air conditioning unit inside of a cage so nobody steals it. Here's a church, there's a church, and this whole African-American community has got churches everywhere. Churches that are empty, but these churches ensure that if any black person gets caught with anything illegal here, they're going off for a long trip, because selling or possessing within 1,000 feet of a church is a criminal enhancement that gives people the worst charges, the longest trips. It's absolutely ridiculous. We're on the corner of Thomas and Brown, and these particular apartments right here are just bad to the freaking bone. These are some bad apartments out here. They try fixing them up. You can see an eviction notice on that one on the door. They try fixing them up and painting the doors purple and trying to keep it clean, but they can't. These apartments are just cramped, dog. This is the heart of the hood, and you wouldn't believe how much it costs to live in a hood here in Fort Myers. The crazy thing about Fort Myers is how much it costs to live in a crappy place. And that's sadly the reality of living in Fort Myers, is you're living in a very high crime rate area, but you're paying ridiculously high rents, and there aren't even that many jobs. The horror of living in the hood in Fort Myers. You gotta put the air conditioners like up on stilts so people don't steal them. Lock up your kids, lock up your wife, lock up the air conditioner. They taking everything out here. All right, guys, so I don't know if y'all knew this. These are the projects in Fort Myers, and they are knocking them down. I had no idea. Yo, I had no idea they got rid of the projects. What the crap, Fort Myers? Guys, take a look at this. The projects are completely gone in Fort Myers. But that's wild work, y'all. The projects are gone. Well, in a lot of ways, it's the same old Fort Myers it's always been, and in some ways, it's changed quite a bit. Grocery store. Papa's Meat. This is a little Haitian spot right here. Little Haitian spot. Papa's Produce. Kind of a little Haitian produce spot right here. You got some Haitian. You got some Dominican. Right across the street, you got a Dominican place. You got Red Bones over here, and I think there's another. Used to be a Haitian restaurant over there.
You shouldn't get Gardasil 9 if you and system are pregnant or plan to be.
They got food trucks on Florida. Check it out, baby. They got agua frescas here. That's what's up, man. They got agua frescas out here on Florida now. This one's real clean. Very clean. Crazy work, man. So here you got a Cuban car dealership, and it's a thing in South Florida now where they have dealerships that specialize in only cars for Cuba. So you can actually, in Miami, I guess maybe here in Fort Myers, there's dealerships where you can buy a car here in the United States and ship it to Cuba. Now, I know there's a lot of misinformation out there and people don't really know how this works, but you can ship cars to Cuba. They have to be a specific year, specific brands. There's some specifications for it to be able to clear the port. But you can actually buy a car in Fort Myers or Miami and ship it to Cuba. And there's a lot of these cars. For example, you can see a lot of Hyundai Elantras, a couple Jeeps. This kind of like matches the profile, the type of car that would go to Cuba. So I wouldn't doubt that this dealership is selling cars just to ship them to Cuba. I tell you, man, it really don't make sense the kind of money that they're trying to get for apartments out here in Fort Myers right now. I mean, if there were jobs, if there were opportunities out here, but there ain't. You got rents popping up everywhere now in Fort Myers. You can tell it's all Haitians living out here by the type of cars in the parking lot. See, they're all small SUVs, so these apartments right here are going to be all Haitians. Everybody up in there is going to be Haitian. They built this over here too. This is new. Royal Palm Apartments, go figure. And they got for rent signs here as well. Dang it, women. Now, this is off of Canal Street out here, and this area is notorious for trapping. So these apartments, if you look carefully, they're kind of like a fortress. They got a canal all the way around. They're everywhere. I mean, but then again, these are not the type of places you want to move to. Here's a for rent sign right here on Central, but bro, this is a rough part of Fort Myers. I mean, you gotta really want to live somewhere to live out here. This is a rough area. But there's different areas. Like some areas have more Haitians, some areas got more Dominicans, some areas got more black, some areas, like, it's very like it changes from place to place. Like sometimes you can just drive through, like here they got Cubans and Brazilians. You can just tell by looking at the cars. But yeah, it varies from place to place, like a lot. Brazilian, some will be mostly Haitian. It just varies from place to place. But compared to other places in Florida, you don't see that many people vacating Fort Myers. You can see a car for sale right here. A lot of people are selling their cars. Like these types of places, living in these types of places, it's definitely not luxurious. It's the hood in every way possible. These are poor areas, and even if these people vacate these neighborhoods, the situation out here is not going to improve one bit. I mean, because the types of people that move into these types of neighborhoods are always going to be people with bad credit scores, criminal records. Get a couple evictions, get a couple repossessions, and this out here is where your life takes you. You end up in a place like this in Fort Myers. And on top of that, when you go to make these informal rents out here, the landlords want all types of ridiculous stuff. They want $5,000 deposits, they want down payments, they want first and last. They got all kind of requirements and rules because they're trying to capitalize on the notion that the people out here got bad credit, are undocumented, got some repossessions, got some evictions. So people out here, they really, you might move in one of these places and they'll want $5,000 deposit out here. You know, they want $3,500 deposit, and don't think for a minute you ever gonna get that money back. This right here is Canal Street. I actually used to work for a property manager fixing these houses up right here. These used to all be crack houses right here. I don't know if they are today, but they used to be crack houses. All these little houses right here, all these houses here used to be crack houses. and you know, the homeless people would break into these houses when they were vacant. The homeless would break in and they'd poop on the floors, and we used to have to go in here and clean all that crap. All these houses right here, I used to work in all these houses, you know, painting them up, fixing them up. But it'd be a nightmare because, you know, as soon as that property got vacant, the homeless people would move in and they would poop everywhere, and then they would leave their paraphernalia over there. It got to the point where we used to not even lock up the houses, because if you locked it, they would break a window or break a door, and then you'd have to fix it. When you gotta have this sign right here on your apartment building, you already know what that package come with. Look, right here, they're building a house, right? You can see a for rent sign right there. Now, anybody from the hood know that the absolute most hood thing you could ever do is pay more for a car payment than you do for rent. That's the absolute pinnacle of hood living, is paying more for your car payment than your rent. That's how you know you really living the hood life. If you ain't paying more for the car than the rent, you ain't living right now. You're not really living the hood. Here's a for rent sign here, and they got a 305 number, so you know they're gonna want a $3,000 deposit. But if you look across the street, you can tell that these are empty right here. Mattress on the ground, doors open. Welcome to North Fort Myers, the predominantly white part of the city. It may be a different race over here, but it's the same crappery, if not worse. It's just the type of place where there's a liquor store on every corner or a smoke shop. It really ain't fancy out here. Different colored people, but the same criminal garbage. It's an abysmal mess here in North Fort Myers. Here in North Fort Myers, they're building these high-rise apartments right across from homeless camps. Take a look at the view from your new apartment in North Fort Myers. Abandoned businesses and homeless camps. That's what your view is gonna be. I mean, this is kind of like a Detroit here, where nature's like fighting to take it back. This is just a wild scene here. It's really sad that this is what Florida has amounted to. Imagine moving into a new apartment overlooking this garbage here. So things here in North Fort Myers aren't exactly great either. This car's been here for the longest. It's got to be stolen. Yeah, if you've lost a Porsche in Arkansas, it might be in Fort Myers. It's like a post-apocalyptic landscape here in North Fort Myers. Everywhere you look are just abandoned, decrepit buildings, and of course homeless camps in all the wooded lots. What type of lizard is that? If anybody knows what type of lizard this is right here, I ain't never seen this thing in Fort Myers. There's somebody living in like a pallet cave back there. Look at that. There's literally just somebody hiding back in there between the pallets. And don't come up in here and talk about Hurricane Ian. That was in 2022. Alright guys, welcome to Cape Coral. This is on the outskirts of Fort Myers. Empanadas. It looks so good. So this is a real Cuban cake that we're gonna eat here first. Take a look at this. What do you think, baby?
Good.
Real Cuban cake. Love Cuban food. Cuban cake is like the best cake you're ever gonna have. But you gotta find a real Cuban bakery like this one. You ain't had cake till you've had Cuban cake, I'm telling you. Alright guys, so this is a real Cuban steak sandwich. That's how I do it inside these sandwiches. That's a Cuban sandwich.
I'm gonna have to take some home.
Look at that. So over here in Cape Coral, a lot of Cubans and Colombians and just kind of more affluent Hispanics, kind of like the more affluent Hispanics have set up shop over here. So over here in Cape Coral, Cubans, Colombians, kind of like the more affluent Latinos have moved over here, as well as a lot of people from Miami. And Cape Coral is now showing as much as 20 to 30% Hispanic. And that's incredible because Cape Coral has 170,000 people. So as Miami keeps getting expensive, many people from the Miami metropolitan area have relocated here to Cape Coral, and now Cape Coral boasts a very large Hispanic community, and it's a little bit more affluent. Like I said, mostly Cubans, Colombians, and just Latinos that are a little bit better off, more U.S. legal status, higher incomes, better education, less food trucks, and more authentic restaurants like the one we ate at here in Cape Coral. Many Latinos, particularly Cubans, Puerto Ricans, Colombians, those that have the better income analytics, are moving over here to Cape Coral, and this is also part of the Fort Myers metropolitan area. There's also a lot of Germans here in Cape Coral. Tourism is also suffering greatly in Fort Myers. This is Fort Myers Beach. Not only was this area hit by Hurricane Ian, but this area is also suffering many of the economical hardships that Florida is going through right now, like how bad tourism has been. On top of that, they just installed cameras out here to take pictures of your license plate, so if you park and don't pay, it automatically gives you a ticket. You know, pay to park is never really a great thing for tourism in general. Places like this, if you're Uber driving, let's say, there's nowhere to park. I mean, if you're coming to the beach, there's nowhere to park. And if you're, by any chance, let's say an Uber driver, you gotta take a small break, park for 5 minutes, they'll take you a picture of the license plate and send you a ticket in the mail. So places like this in Fort Myers, they've kind of sacado los ojos, as we would say. They've made it unduly expensive. Now the hurricanes weren't exactly great for this area. You had Hurricane Ian come through here, destroy the whole place. Everything that you're looking at here was in about 15 feet underwater. It's for rent. Even the businesses are for rent. Can you imagine not being able to open? Well, there's no reason why a tourist destination like this should have places vacant. I mean, that's crazy. Look, $20 to park all day. That's crazy, man. So if you want to go to the beach and you want to park over here, you're paying $20 to park. That's insane, you know? And that's kind of the problem with Fort Myers, is that they've really made it where there's nowhere really to park. Over here it says $3 an hour to park. The point being, who the crap's gonna pay to park at the beach? In Sarasota, you got better beaches and you don't have to pay to park. But over here, everything's about money. And I really feel like they kind of hurt themselves. I mean, they should have a giant parking garage here that's public at this point. I mean, Sarasota's got better beaches and they got free parking. So why the crap would you come over here? And the Sarasota airport is only like 15 minutes from the beach. I mean, from here, where we are right now, to the airport is like at least 45 minutes, at least an hour of traffic, to be real. So you're about an hour from the airport. You got to pay $20 to park a vehicle. How does any of that correlate with a town that doesn't even have, because let's be real, Fort Myers Beach ain't the best beaches out there. This ain't like, I don't know, this ain't Siesta Key out here. And then there's this freaking nightmare, the traffic. Because there's only like one way in and one way out of this freaking beach.